Then we also thought, okay, if we measure all this, we'll get a lot of numbers. We'll get, this is your speed per megabit per second. This is how long it takes you to download a file and so on and so on. We thought, is there a number? Is there a way we can just give one score or one figure that anyone can use so that your internet experience or internet resilience score is X or Y or this number? So we came up what we call the Internet Resilience Index, IRI in short. And it's just an average score of a number of other measurements that we combine together and then come up with a score and say, this is the Internet Resilience Index score for that country. I'm going to explain a bit more. Now, when we started, there are many ways you can measure an internet connection. You can measure the normal one we use every day is uplink and downlink speed. You can go to various web pages. I'm sure you've seen that. Has anyone used speed checker or any tool to measure internet speed? Yeah, there are simple ones like fast.com. You go to fast.com, it tells you your speed is this, and you can get, uplink, downlink speed, and so on. And there are several others. So what we decided to do is, because there's so many metrics, you can measure that. You can measure round trip time. You can measure how long it takes for you to get from one side of the globe to the other one. We came up with 4 main pillars, and we decided to try and categorize all the different ways you can measure the internet into those 4 categories of those 4 pillars. So the first one is infrastructure. This is very simple. How many ISPs are in that country? We've talked about IXPs. So for example, in South Africa, we have 13. In Kenya, Fiona will correct me. I don't know how many you have in Kenya right now. Fiona, I'm sure you'll have the accurate figure. How many IXPs are there? How many power providers are there? Because yes, you can have 15 ISPs, but if one country has 2 internet service providers, 2 power providers, and this other country has 1 provider, it means that if that power provider has a fault, there's a chance that connectivity will go down. So infrastructure is very easy. How many cables are coming into the country? How many ISPs in the country, and so on. Then performance is, uplink, downlink speed. We are using data to see how fast is it on mobile. So on your mobile device, your phone, or as you're browsing with your ISP, and also if you're using back home fiber and so on, what's the experience there? Third one is enabling technologies. So we're looking here at, do you have, or in your country, are there the critical supporting infrastructures for the internet? For example, DNS. So yesterday, I believe DNS was covered in depth in the ICANN session. So DNS is a very key infrastructure on the internet. So do you have one? Is it working well? Routing security, is the routing security being done properly in the country? How safe are you? Is your network the source of spam emails and so on? And then finally, we look at local ecosystem in terms of the market competitiveness. If there's only one ISP in one country, there's no way it has a better resilient connection than a country with 15 or 20 internet service providers. So those are the 4 pillars we decided, and then we have different metrics below that. And we got a lot of help from, as I mentioned, this was a collaboration with Afrinic, but in order to help us design the approach, we also engaged with the University of Cape Town, the Simula, and also Carnegie Mellon University. They helped us to think around and come up with a very nice approach to conduct the measurements. So now it goes down to the math. So now we have to calculate, okay, you have all these measurements that are coming in. How do we average them? How do we come up with a score? How do we tell you this is your internet resilience index score? So what you see there is a table with the breakdown that we came up with. You may not agree with it, and you'll be 100% correct about that. We are working on a way for you to make it dynamic. So if you think, for example, it's for your internet experience, it's more important for you to have good infrastructure than maybe a competitive market space. You'll be able to play around with the charts and and find out exactly how you're scoring on the different metrics. Now, visualization. So we had a lot of data, we had a lot of charts, we had a lot of spreadsheets, we had a lot of JSON files. How do you combine that in a way that can be easily understood? So on the Pulse dashboard that we have on ISOC, you can go there and see how we visualize the data. You can see the score for the 4 key pillars that I've talked about, and the score you get for each pillar in that country. And you can see scores for your own country, or you can see the score for a region or sub-region or a continent and so on, and you can compare. So you can go to pulse.internetsociety.org. There are other metrics we measure there, but if you go to resilience, you'll see the resilience scores we have there. So top 10 countries in Africa, based on all those numbers we've combined, all those data we've done, those are the top 10. Number 1 is Mauritius, and South Africa is in second place. I won't go through all the numbers there, but those are the scores under the 4 different pillars that I talked about. And all this is on the Pulse website. You can go and see. But based on the metrics, based on the data we have, those are the top 10 countries in terms of resilience. Resilience meaning if there's ever a fault in the internet connection, these are the countries you want to be in because they have a very good infrastructure to make sure you stay online. So just looking at South Africa, since we're in South Africa, but you can analyze for your own country. Those are the 4 pillars that we are measuring with. Those are the scores for South Africa. So South Africa has a rounded score of 53.4%. On resilience, and it's second best in Africa at the moment. If you go to the Pulse dashboard, it gives you more details on how that score is actually arrived. But simply explained, it's those 4 pillars. You divide by 4, you get your internet resilience index score. So just comparing with Mauritius, why is Mauritius, why did we determine, why does the data show that Mauritius has a more resilient internet connection than South Africa? It is mainly for that metric there, which we call fiber per 10 kilometers. This is the percentage of the population within 10 kilometers of a fiber connection. So maybe Mauritius is at a certain advantage here, a smaller country than SA. So if your chances are you're near a fiber connection in Mauritius than you are in South Africa. So that's one. But in terms of overall, I think South Africa is doing very, very well with the other metrics. You can also, visualize the same data in a number of ways. If you go to the index, so that's another way to compare using the spiderweb graph. I think I covered this also earlier. So different ways to visualize the data depending on what you want to see and what you want to analyze. So we started in Africa. We did it for 2 years. We got a lot of input. We got a lot of feedback, and we got a lot of requests from outside Africa. It's like, when are you going to do this for global, for other countries? So now we're able to do the same approach we did for Africa. We applied to all the countries across the globe. And if you go to the Pulse website, you can click on any country there. We have data for 176 countries. You can click and see how well you're doing. And these are the top 10 countries based on 176 countries. So right now, based on the different metrics, the country with the best internet resilience at the moment is Iceland, and followed by those there, which I won't read, but you can get all this on the Pulse dashboard. Okay, so you can get a lot of data, you can combine it, but what about real-time measurements? What if I want to know right now today what the speed experience is for you in your home network? So as we discussed earlier, you do need more measurements. You need a way to carry out these real-time measurements. We piloted a small prototype measurement network using a Raspberry Pi 4. So a Raspberry Pi 4 is a small computer about the size of this remote I'm handling. It's a small, tiny computer. And they use very low power and they are relatively inexpensive. So we wanted to see, can you carry out or can you deploy your own measurement infrastructure? Let's say you want to measure the internet resilience for a small town or a small city. Can you just push your own devices and test and see? So we did a small pilot with 10 countries using the Raspberry Pis. We put certain measurement tools there. We received that data, we graphed that data, and we saw that data. So it was a pilot run. We did it for a couple of years. We could get graphs like that, statistics like that. And it was just a prototype to see how we can do it. Of course, there are much larger deployments. Like RIPE Atlas, I think the score was the number of devices on RIPE Atlas is 12,000. So only here we had 26, and we use it as a lesson learned. If you want to deploy your own measurement infrastructure, how do you want to do it? Now, the devices we used here, they are dynamic. It means you can run the software RIPE Atlas measurements. You can also run other measurement tools. You can run a tool called Murakami, which does uplink, downlink speeds. You can use it as a uniprobe. You can switch on and switch off different tests depending on what you want to see. So that's a pilot we run, and we sort of we are documenting the lessons learned, and we are going to release a toolkit very soon. If you're interested in carrying out your own measurements, you'll be able to do that with our toolkit. So to wrap up, insights learned. So we worked a lot with partners. Partners help you get a lot of the work done faster. We always engage with partners. And if you were here and you helped us with this, thanks again very much for this. We found out metrics vary per region. So we had, when we started, we had a very, the two of us who are working on this were based in Africa with a very African view of this. But when we started engaging with other colleagues, they'll say, you need to introduce this metric, introduce that metric. So they do vary per region. But the way the index is built is you can plug in more measurements if you like, or remove some measurements if you don't like. So as I mentioned, we have a measurement platform. And if you are trying to understand, so how do you use all this? This is just to help you make an informed decision. That's all. If you're a regulator and you want to improve the internet in your country or in your region, you can go to the index and look at the areas where you're not doing well. That's an indicator that this is the area you need to improve. So for example, if you're doing poorly on market resilience, it means there is a policy gap that, or there's a policy challenge that has made it more difficult for more ISPs to come in the space. So that's how you can use the index to make informed decisions. If you're a network operator and you see your country is doing poorly on uplink speed, downlink speed, that's an indicator. That's an area you could improve for a better internet experience. So future plans, we have a dashboard which you see there. It's very static. We want to make it dynamic. You can switch this or turn on or turn off different metrics. We're working on a framework document. In fact, Alain at the back of the room is helping us with a framework document. We're engaging with the ATU. So there'll be a framework document that helps if you want to know, okay, how do you, at a regulatory level, at a policy level, what policies help internet resilience? What are those policy and metrics you can apply? So that's what we're looking at there. And then we are completing the toolkit. If you're interested in real-time measurements, you want to deploy your own measurement infrastructure. We had a university that wanted to deploy measurements. They had a big university spanning the country. They wanted to know the different experiences for the users. You can deploy your measurement infrastructure. And we're always refreshing the data. So we're always improving the observatory and improving the data we have so that we have more accurate data on the Pulse dashboard. So that's more work we're going to do there. So I'll close with that slide there. You can you can follow us on Twitter. You can email us on pulse.isoc.org. You can go to the Pulse website, of course, get more information. And there's a newsletter where we give updates on what you can get on Pulse. So thank you very much, and happy to take questions. Back to you, Marcus.